Welcome back to Table Smash Tuesday, right here on the Bills Bunker. As always, I'm Jake Varco, and today we're less than 48 hours away from the 2024 NFL Draft. Anticipation is building. It's an exciting time to be a football fan. The Chicago Bears will obviously be the first team on the clock. We're all anticipating Caleb Williams to be the first overall selection in this draft. But only time will tell if that becomes a reality. We're going to discuss a lot on this show today. Like always, we're going to start off with some more recent news surrounding the Buffalo Bills. Nothing too much over the last week or so, but there has been some other changes around the National Football League that we'll talk about. But first, you know what time it is. It's time for the intro. Let's go.
Go Bills.
Look at this crowd. Look at this.
Yes, it makes us wanna shout. Shout!
1, 2, 3, 4 years in a row. AFC East champion. It's our division. Let's go. This guy's shirtless. He's dropping in. Let's go.
That's a nice show for you.
Look at it.
Beautiful. Honestly, one of the best things I've seen all night. Those fireworks right there. Woo! Those horns get me fired up. And honestly, every time I hear those train horns go off, it takes me back to when I'm at Highmark Stadium. And it's just like every time there's a third down, the Bills defense has a third down, they got to get a stop. And people are just smashing the bleachers. It's a wild atmosphere. But that time, we're still a few months away from that. We've got some stuff coming up here surrounding the National Football League over the next few weeks, even few months. Like, we've got the NFL Draft, less than 48 hours away. After that, the schedule release will be happening in May, and that's going to be an exciting time. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be booking their flights to go on a road game. Bills Mafia travels really well. We're going to see, I'm anticipating a lot of primetime games. And if you check out Sal Capaccio's recent video over on his YouTube channel, he had an interview with the vice president of NFL broadcasting, and he was hinting at some things with, potential of that Houston-Buffalo game, and then they were hinting at a lot of primetime games for the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, you have Josh Allen, the star quarterback. Just because they traded Diggs, they're not going to take the Bills off primetime. We got some stuff to talk about, though, before schedule release, because the draft is less than 48 hours away, and this anticipation's been building over the last while. It's almost here now. Before we really dive in, I'd like to take a moment to encourage you to subscribe if you're new to the channel. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Click that like button in the comment section. Leave your thoughts all throughout the show. Let's have a good show. Sledge Hockey 101, nice to see you. Bill's about to draft some studs. I certainly hope so. And in this show, we're gonna highlight some of these draft prospects that are a possibility for the Buffalo Bills here. Bills Fan 2020, what's up, Bills Mafia? How we doing? Doing great. It's 48 hours, like I said, until the draft starts. I guess it's actually right above 48 hours because the draft starts around 8 p.m. And it's going to be a late night if you're a Bills fan because, the Bills have the 28th overall selection. And unless they trade up into the top 10, the time that pick has usually rolled around over the last few years is after 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So get your coffee ready and get your popcorn ready. It's going to be a long night Thursday. But if you haven't yet, get your popcorn ready for the show too, because we got lots to talk about. We got a lot to talk about, and we're going to start off with some stuff that's been happening around the National Football League. Obviously, it's the off season. So we're kind of in like the dog days of the offseason, not quite yet, but we're approaching the draft. So there's a bit of quiet time. We had a bunch of visits that have happened over the last bit. But outside of that, the first and second wave of free agents have already been signed. The most notable news over the last week or so has been the uniform releases. And I love doing my uniform reviews. So we're going to look at every one of the 4 new sets of uniforms. Starting off with the New York Jets. We talked about these last week. The New York Jets uniforms, awfully similar to what we've seen in the past. Black, white. You're very limited in what you can do with that color scheme. That white throwback alternate jersey, it's most notably been used in that week 1 game against the Buffalo Bills where Aaron Rodgers played in only 4 snaps. I think the Jets actually did a pretty good job here considering, it looks similar to what we've seen in the past, but it's definitely an upgrade, and I like their helmets. They're really throwing it back to the 80s with these uniforms, so solid stuff from them. But this next uniform combination that we're about to talk about really set the standard and set the tone for these new uniform releases. These new uniforms, oh, so good, so clean, because the Detroit Lions are back in black. Cue up the AC/DC. That black uniform, black top, black pants, so clean with the blue helmet and the black lion. Are you kidding me? They've had black uniforms in the past, but they did not compare to these at all. We also saw them unveil some new typical home and away jerseys, the blue and the white. When you look at their past jerseys, the numbers were harder to read. They had silver numbers. It's a slight change, but I think it's a welcome change for Detroit Lions fans. I really like what they did there. Solid stuff from the Detroit Lions. I think that's the best uniform change that we've seen this offseason, unlike these ones that we're about to show. This next uniform combination is atrocious. Oh boy, the Denver Broncos. They really managed to mess this up. I've never liked the Denver Broncos uniforms in the first place. I do like the one on the far left where it's the throwback uniform with the D on the helmet. Those classic look. You've seen like guys like Shannon Sharp wearing those. But these 3 uniforms to the right of that are just atrocious. That's my opinion, but it is a widespread belief and it's a widespread opinion that many other fans around the National Football League share. Those aren't very good. And that was all. Those jerseys were revealed on the same day that the Denver Broncos acquired Zach Wilson from the New York Jets. It's got to suck to be a Denver Broncos fan right now. Like, they just got rid of Russell Wilson, took on a massive dead cap amount of money. And then they go ahead, change their uniforms to this, and trade for Zach Wilson on the same day. Zach Wilson, it was only for a 7th round pick. Low risk, high reward, I guess. But Zach Wilson, former 2nd overall pick, that's one of the biggest draft busts in NFL history. And I don't think that's changing. That sucks. And if you're a mother in the Denver area, do not go outside. Next up, the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans uniform reveal, I rank this as the 2nd best of the 4 new uniforms. That red, all red with the red helmet, that's a clean look. The blue, like the navy blue and the white, their home and away jerseys, they're all right. They're not that much different than what we've seen in the past from them. And then the one in the middle right there, the H-Town Threads with the baby blue H. It's kind of a throwback to what we've seen with the Houston Oilers, those colors. But I'm not a fan of them. I think the other 3 jerseys are better. But hey, it's interesting stuff for sure. Interesting stuff. I think the NFL uniforms, those ones, they're good. I think all the teams that changed their uniforms, they did pretty well, except for the Denver Broncos. And that's very indicative of that franchise right now because they can't seem to do anything right. It's bad over in Colorado. Really bad. But at least they have the Colorado Avalanche, and at least they have the Denver Broncos. Because, hey, it's not looking good. Or at least they have the Colorado Avalanche, and at least they have the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets can beat the Los Angeles Lakers. They're up 2-0. Had a comeback, down 20 points last night. And then the Colorado Avalanche, they're down 1-0 against the Winnipeg Jets. But I like the Avalanche a lot to go deep in the playoffs here. We'll get to a question. If Josh Allen wins Buffalo its first Super Bowl, do you think he'll be the best Bills quarterback? I think even if Josh Allen doesn't win a Super Bowl with the Buffalo Bills, he can be in that conversation. I mean, Jim Kelly went to 4 straight Super Bowls. That's a really hard thing to beat. No other team in National Football League history has gone to 4 straight Super Bowls. But, I mean, Josh Allen, right now, he's the most important person in Buffalo sports. Josh Allen is that upper echelon of players. It's Patrick Mahomes and it's Josh Allen. And then it's everyone else. So, if he wins a Super Bowl, he'll be the best, yes. If he doesn't, he still might end up being the greatest Bills quarterback of all time. But obviously, that's going to be a split opinion because Jim Kelly, he did so many great things for the franchise as well, leading them to 4 straight Super Bowls, Super Bowl appearances, and obviously a Hall of Fame career. Both guys exceptional. But if Josh Allen wins a Super Bowl for the Buffalo Bills, that man will have a statue. He will. And I think that Josh Allen has surpassed the stardom level that Jim Kelly ever reached. I wasn't alive for Jim Kelly, his height, his peak in the National Football League. But you look at Josh Allen. Like I said, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and then everyone else. Josh Allen was just on the cover of Madden. I wasn't alive in the 90s, but I'm not I know Jim Kelly, obviously great player, Hall of Fame player, but I don't think that he was at that level where he would have been on a Madden cover. Potentially. But anyways, other Buffalo Bills news. So it's kind of newsworthy. It's something that I feel as if we should talk about, and that is Micah Hyde. Everyone knows Micah Hyde, longtime safety for the Buffalo Bills over the last 7 years, cornerstone piece, 33-year-old veteran who everyone's wondering, is he going to retire? That's what most people believe, that Micah Hyde's going to retire. Is he going to come back? It's still unknown. It's unclear. We're leaning towards he's going to retire, but it's ultimately up to him, because if he does decide to come back, the Bills would obviously like to have him back. Brandon Beane has even said that in the past. Here's a statement that he released on his Instagram earlier this week. I believe it was April 17th he said this. Bills Mafia, although I'm currently not with the team, I want you all to know how special this game is to not only myself, but my whole family. Over the last 3 years, your relentless energy has elevated this game to the next level, and I'm forever grateful to have your unwavering support. While my future is still unknown, I do know this. I can't wait to be reunited with you all on May 19th. Now, for those of you who don't know what he's talking about in terms of being reunited with you all on May 19th, I'll clue you in. Micah Hyde every year has a charity softball event that's held at the beautiful Salem Field right across from the KeyBank Center in downtown Buffalo. So that's an event that I'm going to be going to, and they have a game, and then they have a home run derby with a bunch of the Bills players. It's a fun little event, and the thing I'm most excited to see at that event is Josh Allen hitting some dingers. I know that he won the home run derby for the Bills players, I believe it was 2 years ago, and then he lost in the finals last year. So it's gonna be fun to see these players, these football players, taking the field, swinging that bat in a little home run derby competition. Friendly little thing, but I'm guaranteeing you right now, I'm gonna get some great content there. So stay tuned for that. And I guess so that's Sunday, May 19th, Salem Field. Maybe I'll see some of you there. Who knows? But after I'll release a video about it And then I'll also have a lot like my table smash Tuesday. I'll share some clips with you guys then. But reading more into that statement, so I don't want to, obviously he says my future is still unknown. So there's not really too much to read into there. But what I will say, we'll look at what Micah Hyde has done for the Bills over the last 7 years. Because obviously, this is someone that you'd like to have back. The safety position for the Buffalo Bills right now, it's a bit questionable. You have DeMar Hamlin, Mike Edwards, and you have Taylor Rapp was re-signed to a 3-year contract as well. No Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde's former partner in crime, the safety tandem that were together for 7 years in Buffalo. Poyer is now a member of the Miami Dolphins. So Micah Hyde, even though he's 33 and he's dealt with some injuries, this is a guy that we'd all love to see come back. Over the last 7 seasons with the Buffalo Bills, he suited up in 95 games and recorded 24 interceptions with 3 forced fumbles. And he was a 2-time second-team All-Pro that was also named to a Pro Bowl in 2017. Micah Hyde was such a valuable asset for this team over the last 7 years. You see the C on his chest right there, captain of the team, leader, locker room presence. And even though he might not be the impact player that he once was, I believe he still can make some impact on the field. But what bringing Micah Hyde back would do goes beyond just the on the field stuff. Just having that kind of locker room presence, a captain, someone who's familiar with the scheme over the last 7 years in Buffalo, that could do wonders for these younger guys, especially if the Bills were to go out and draft a young safety in a later round, help groom and develop that player, and give him some pointers, give him some tips, because that's some very valuable advice that I'm sure Micah has to offer for some players. Joseph Clark says Jim led his team to Super Bowl. Allen hasn't. Yes, Joseph, you're right. Absolutely, you're right. That is a fact. Jim Kelly led his team to the Super Bowl 4 times, and Jim Kelly, right now, he's the greatest Buffalo Bill of all time. But I'm going to say, Josh Allen has a chance to become the greatest Buffalo Bill of all time. And if you're taking into consideration, like, was Josh Allen born at the wrong time? Because he's got to deal with Patrick Mahomes. Jim Kelly didn't have to deal with a Patrick Mahomes. I'm just going to say that. Like, Jim Kelly got to 4 straight Super Bowls. They all turned out sour for the Bills. But Josh Allen definitely has the chance to surpass him. Either way, Bills Mafia loves them both. Nathan Coates says Diggs going to look good in those new Texans uniforms. I'm sure he will. A lot of players are going to look good in them. I mean, unless you're a beefy offensive lineman, they're pretty clean. Pretty clean look. Bills fan 2020, what do you think is going to happen to Khalil Shakir? I think Khalil Shakir is going to have a break. Last year was his breakout year, but he's going to build on that. You'd assume so. Barring any injuries or anything like that, Khalil Shakir should only build on the numbers that he had last season. So I'll do a little stat prediction for him for next season. I'll pull up the stats that he had last season, and then I'll do a stat prediction for him. Let me share my screen with you. Give me a moment. Khalil Shakir last season, he had one heck of a year, especially in the second half. Like, he was a stud for the Bills in the second half and into the playoffs. Like, I remember that game against Pittsburgh. Huge plays. Just sharing my screen here so we can look at Khalil Shakir's numbers from last season. All right. So highlighted in yellow, 2023 season. Last year, he averaged only 35.9 yards per game, but that's not really taking into account that Ken Dorsey was the offensive coordinator in the first half of the season. He didn't get too involved with them then. He still managed to have 39 receptions on 45 targets. So his hands are like magnets. He's bringing in everything. And he had 611 yards with 15.7 yards per reception, 2 touchdowns, 26 first downs. So Khalil Shakir, obviously a very valuable wide receiver for the Bills last season. I'm expecting him to build on those numbers. The floor that I see for Shakir next season is like 800 yards. That's the floor. His ceiling can be up to 1,000 yards, realistically, depending on what the Bills do here at the wide receiver position and who they draft and who they add. But really, the guy that I think is going to be the top target for the Bills next year is Dalton Kincaid. And I don't think Dalton Kincaid's getting enough love. Dalton Kincaid had the rookie reception record in Bills franchise history, and that's at the tight end position. Josh Allen, he's gonna feed Khalil Shakir next season, but he's gonna give Dalton Kincaid plenty of chances to make plays. Kincaid's a special talent. Nathan says draft in 2 days. Any predictions for trades in the first rounds? I think teams. I'll give you teams to watch. I think there's a lot of interesting teams to watch here. Like the top 5 is interesting because you have Caleb Williams is a lot as close to a lock as you can get at the number 1 overall pick. He's off the board number 1 overall to Chicago. We all know that. Number 2, it's probably Jaden Daniels to Washington, but does Drake May climb a little bit and go there? Who knows? There's been some reports about Jaden Daniels maybe being unhappy with the Commanders organization. Does that affect him being drafted there or not being drafted there? That remains to be seen. But really, the teams that I think you have to watch out for to trade up, you have the Denver Broncos. They need a quarterback. You have the Raiders need a quarterback. The Vikings need a quarterback. The 2 that are most likely to trade up here, probably Denver and probably Minnesota. Because Minnesota, they have Justin Jefferson. They don't want to waste that talent. They need to get him a quarterback. And in that NFC North division, they could have a chance to compete, but obviously not without a quarterback. Sam Darnold ain't going to cut it. And I think obviously the NFC North is getting better and better. You have the Packers, who had one hell of a season last year, young team, and they're only going to get better. The Detroit Lions, they added some pieces this offseason as well. So trades in the first round, I think the Bills are a team to watch, and there's been a lot of talk about them as well. Like, are they going to trade up? Maybe. That's really, it depends on how the board falls for the Buffalo Bills. If Brian Thomas Jr. starts slipping a bit into like the 18-19 range, maybe the Bills say, you know what, we're going to go up and get him. If that's the guy that Brandon Beane likes. Because Brandon Beane has done that in the past. He's made moves to trade up and get his guy. But on the other hand, if a bunch of wide receivers go off the board and the Bills haven't made a trade up, it's pick 28. Say the guy they don't want is there. Maybe it's Vlad McConkey. Maybe it's Xavier Worthy. Adonai Mitchell. Say they're all off the board. I don't think it's likely, but if they're all off the board, there's potential that the Bills trade down into the second round. Maybe with a team like the Carolina Panthers who want to trade up. There's a lot of potential here. I think there's going to be a few trades, but we've seen a lot of these mock drafts that have like 5 trades in the first round. I'm not sure that it's going to be that many. I think there's going to be a few, but either way, it's going to be really, really exciting. Now, I want to talk about some draft prospects. Okay, before we do that, actually, I don't know if anyone here does any sports betting, but if you look at FanDuel, Vegas always seems to know things. You know, the Vegas odd makers know best. It's hard if you're a sports bettor, you're trying to look for your spots, you're trying to look for where's the money? Where's the money going to take me? Vegas knows. Vegas doesn't want to give you good odds and say, you know what? Like, say, theoretical bet here. Like, say, okay, for example, today the Boston Red Sox are underdogs today. So with that example, the Boston Red Sox being underdogs against the Cleveland Guardians on the road, FanDuel any odds makers, they know some inside stuff that most of the public doesn't know. They're not going to give you the Boston Red Sox at plus money if, like, there has to be a reason for it. So, with that being said, when you look at this chart right here, these odds, according to FanDuel, the 2024 NFL Draft, position of Buffalo Bills first drafted player. It's crazy that you can bet on anything nowadays, but right here it says position of first player drafted. Wide receiver is minus 240. 240 odds to be drafted. And then plus 500 odds are the next thing. So FanDuel is telling you right now that they really believe that the Buffalo Bills are taking a wide receiver. They're almost daring you to bet defensive lineman, edge, or cornerback. FanDuel is absolutely sold on the belief that the Bills are going wide receiver with their first pick. And that's the consensus belief. I also am a believer that that is the case. Unless, of course, something weird happens with maybe some news the night before about the prospect they like that tarnishes his reputation and makes his draft stocks fall. But wide receiver seems to be the widespread belief for the Buffalo Bills here. And here's how the wide receiver rankings are for this upcoming draft. We have Marvin Harrison Jr. is the runaway favorite to be the top wide receiver picked. But Malik Nabers is kind of creeping into that upper echelon there. I mean, he has been in the upper echelon of wide receivers. It's him and Harrison Jr. are the top two guys, but there's been discussions. Does Nabers go above Marvin Harrison Jr.? I'm not a believer that that will be the case because Marvin Harrison Jr. is just the better prospect from what we've seen in college. And he obviously has those bloodlines with the Hall of Fame dad who played for the Indianapolis Colts, one of the great receivers the game has ever seen. So Marvin Harrison Jr. is already being, touted as a potential Hall of Fame player, and he hasn't even stepped foot in the National Football League yet. So Marvin Harrison Jr. should be the first one off the board, right around pick number 4 for the Arizona Cardinals. Then you have Malik Nabers, who is projected to go right in the neighborhood of 5 or 6 to a team like the Los Angeles Chargers, who is a potential team that you could see trading down with Harbaugh as their new head coach. He's going to want to take control of that ship. He's going to want to steer it the way he wants. Rome Odunze, he's an interesting prospect. He's ranked somewhere. He's projected to go somewhere in the top 10. And an interesting thing about Odunze today came out, actually. Rome Odunze was reportedly on a flight. I was just watching the NFL Network before I came on here. I was preparing some stuff on the laptop, and I had the NFL Network in the background. Rome Odunze was on a flight to Detroit at the exact same time as Caleb Williams. He was on the same flight as Caleb Williams. That raises some eyebrows. That's interesting because Odunze, I just said he's projected somewhere around pick 10. It would not surprise me at all if the Chicago Bears double down because they have pick 1 and pick 9. They go Caleb Williams, and then they get him a top target for these two players to grow together. It makes so much sense. That makes a lot of sense. And it's also been said recently that I believe it was Tom Pelissero that reported this, that the two were also playing some catch together. So this, it's all pointing towards potential of them meeting up and combining their talents with the Chicago Bears. Back to the draft board we go. I'm going to get to the comments in a second, but back to the draft board we go. Brian Thomas Jr. is after those top 3 guys. So really you have the tier 1 guys, which are the 3, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Nabers, Rome Odunze. And then Brian Thomas Jr. is kind of in a tier of his own underneath them, tier 2 wide receiver, but in most NFL drafts, he would be a tier 1 wide receiver, without a doubt. After that, it's a bunch of guys that you can flip or flop them. They're interchangeable. You have Adonai Mitchell, who he's honestly my favorite out of the guys after Brian Thomas Jr. I think there's a lot to like about Adonai Mitchell. The one thing that some people, there's been reports that maybe he's not the most coachable guy. Maybe he doesn't give effort on every play. That might be a concern, especially when you consider Sean McDermott and Brandon Bean, how they run their organization. Lad McConkey is a guy that I could see being a great fit for the Bills. However, he did line up on the outside in college, but it looks like, based off everything that I've watched and based off everything that I've heard from other analysts as well, like, it seems that Lad McConkey is best suited as a slot wide receiver in the National Football League, and the Bills right now have Khalil Shakir in the slot. They have guys that can play in the slot. They need more wideout guys. So that brings us to our next guy, Xavier Worthy, who I mentioned about FanDuel and these sports betting sites. FanDuel had a promotion out about Xavier Worthy being drafted to the Buffalo Bills. I believe the odds were plus 410 for that. Xavier Worthy, we know that he had a meeting with the Buffalo Bills, a visit, one of those 30 visits recently as well. So interesting prospect, undersized player, but he is very speedy. He's really climbed the charts after the NFL scouting combine in March when he ran that 4.21 40-yard dash. Javon Baker out of UCF. I mean, he's an interesting prospect. Troy Franklin, another one of those. He's more of a slot wide receiver. And then Keon Coleman is a big body wide receiver out of Florida State. You either love him or you either hate him. I mean, he's a really interesting prospect. Now, I'm going to show you a bit about a lot of these guys right now. I prepared some graphics for you to check out, but let's get to the comment here. It might be between those two fast Texas wide receivers. And yeah, I think that is very definitely a likelihood. But I do something tells me Lad McConkey. And Lad McConkey just seems like such a Bills player. I've seen like an interview with Lad McConkey. I don't know who it was that did the interview with him, but Lad McConkey just seemed so excited after his interview with the Bills. He said it would be awesome to catch balls from Josh Allen. Which obviously, pretty much any wide receiver would say that, right? You'd think. But here, let's check out some of these wide receiver prospects. And we're going to start off with my personal favorite of the realistic options, because I don't think the Bills are trading into the top 10. That's just, you'd have to give up a surplus of picks to do it. I'm not sure that it makes very much sense to do that, especially when you're considering the Bills are trying to get younger here. They have 10 draft picks this year. I don't think they want to give up all their draft capital next year, because you can continue adding young pieces at a cheap price through the draft. Brian Thomas Jr., 6'4", 209 pounds. That's a big boy at the wide receiver position, 21 years old, and like I said, led the NCAA all of college football with 17 touchdown receptions. This guy was an absolute unit for Louisiana State University last season. He's a deep threat option, and if there's a hit on him, it's that he struggles with those short routes a little bit on the comebacks and the curls, anything coming back towards the quarterback. But the thing is, he's only 21 years old. He has time to develop. And if you're looking at the Bills right now, a lot of these wide receivers that they have, they're good with their comebacks. They're good with their in routes, their slants. They need someone that can stretch the field vertically. That's why I think Brian Thomas Jr. is such an intriguing option for the Buffalo Bills at the position. He was the number 2 option at LSU. I mean, obviously they had Malik Neighbors. So the question is, can he be an alpha dog wide receiver at the NFL level if he was a number 2 at college? I think he can be, just based off of watching his tape, his size, and his deep route running ability. This is someone that can stretch the field vertically. He might have his limitations on his short routes, but that's something that he can continue to groom and develop as he ages. Like I said, only 21 years of age right now. Let's check out. So this was, let's see. Comments. Yes, Allen is a beauty. And you know what? I've got a clip of Josh Allen just for that. I'm going to keep the comment up there while it's on. Allen is a beauty, and you know what? Buffalo loves this guy. I've got my... You know what? I'll grab it. I got my Josh's Jacks ready right here. Like, Josh Allen is a special athlete. This guy needs some weapons. You can't waste this guy's talent. He's on cereal boxes. He's on the cover of Madden last year. Josh Allen is a special talent, and Buffalo loves this guy. He was at the optional team workouts last week. I mean, look at this guy. Thumbs up. He does it all. Josh Allen in short season. Are you ready for the summer? The photos that the Bills are going to be posting. It's going to be good. I'm going to be seeing Josh Allen. Hopefully, I think he's supposed to be there. I think at the Micah Hyde charity softball event. And if you missed the beginning of the show, I'm going to be going to that event, getting a bunch of content, and I'll be talking about it the following Tuesday. So the event itself is May 19th, Sunday, May 19th. So I'll be here that Tuesday talking about it. I'll have some videos from it showing the guys hitting dingers, and then I'll also have a full video being released on the YouTube channel. And Mike says, I love McConkey as a route runner, but his production was terrible. Yeah, you know what? You're right. You're right. You know what? I got the Lad McConkey stuff here. I got it all covered. So we're gonna go to Lad McConkey. We can go to him next, just because you wanted to bring up McConkey. We'll go to him next. We'll skip over the Texas guys and come back to them. I have the Texas guys, one of the Texas guys ranked over McConkey, but I think Lad McConkey is just such an intriguing option. Like, let's look at his scouting profile. 6 foot, 185 pounds, which is eerily similar to the size of Stephon Diggs. 22 years old. Last season, only 478 yards and 3 touchdowns, 2 through the air, 1 rushing touchdown. He's a smooth route runner. And like I said, he lined up on the outside at Georgia, but this guy seems like more of a slot wide receiver in the National Football League. Number 2 option at Georgia. Obviously, the number 1 guy is the tight end that's going to be going. Probably the top tight end off the board. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with me there. And that guy is none other than Brock Bowers. So, Georgia Bulldogs, we do know that the Bills drafted Georgia Bulldog James Cook a few years back. So, maybe Brandon Beane goes back to the well there and gets another guy from Georgia. And Mike mentioned that he loves the route running ability of Lad McConkey. Just check out his footwork right here. This guy's footwork is clean. It's really impressive stuff. It's not a very long video, but impressive stuff from Lad McConkey. Look at how smooth this route running is. Like, he looks like he's ready for NFL action right now. So, there's a lot to like about McConkey. But I think his stats, the stat thing that you're talking about, I understand the concern there. But I don't think it's as big as a concern because Brock Bowers was getting most of the targets there. Brock Bowers, he's going to be the top tight end off the board this year. He is so skilled, such a great player. And Lad McConkey was lining up on the outside. He didn't have easy routes at Georgia. He was going deep downfield, doing all the hard stuff. So, McConkey, he has his ups, he has his downs. He's an intriguing option. But 22 years old, there's room for development. But the biggest concern for me isn't his production or his lack of production at Georgia. For me, the biggest concern about McConkey is the fact that I see him more as a slot guy, and I'm not the only one that sees him more as a slot guy in the NFL. And you have Khalil Shakir. The Bills need a vertical threat wide receiver if they're going to draft a wide receiver, in my opinion. Largemouth Hunter. I like that fish. Should be on River Monsters. Regardless of what round, get 2 wide receivers. Let's go. Yeah, I think the Bills have to double down on wide receivers here 100% because, like, you need to be sure here. You need to be sure. You need some more depth. 100%. Mike says I want BTJ, Leggett, and AD Mitchell in that order. Leggett is an interesting option. Like, oh, Xavier Leggett. Imagine if he got drafted. His nickname would be XL for the Bills. I don't know if you've heard that before or if you heard it here first, but XL is what I'd be calling him. BTJ, Brian Thomas Jr. He's obviously the top one of these guys that the Bills could potentially get. Like I said, he would be in that top tier of wide receivers almost any other year. It's just how stacked this draft class is at that position. AD Mitchell, I have him over Xavier Leggett. I think Xavier Leggett is kind of an interesting prospect. It's just because of his size, right? Like he kind of reminds a lot of people of a DK Metcalf type of receiver. If you look at his build, he looks like a freak athlete. I have a Xavier Leggett right here. 6'1", 221 pounds. The concern about him is he's a bit of an older prospect at 23 years old, but with South Carolina, he had 1,255 yards and 7 touchdowns last season. He's got the size and contested catch skill that a guy like Xavier Worthy doesn't have. He's able to fight off the defensive backs. He's able to go up and get the ball. But the one hit on him that I read a lot from these scouting reports is that his footwork needs improvement, and his acceleration bursts at time, it can be a little slower off the line of scrimmage. So obviously, is that a huge concern? Maybe, maybe not, because this guy is just a freak athlete with his size that I'm sure he can fight off defensive backs, even if he doesn't have the best acceleration burst. So he's an interesting option, but I think Xavier Leggett's going in the second round. He could climb into the first round if a team like really thinks that they could utilize him in a special way. He might be a first round pick, but I see him more as a second round guy. And who knows? Maybe the Bills trade down and they get Xavier Leggett in the second round. If that were the case, I wouldn't be too upset about it. How would you feel if the Bills trade down? Let me know. I'm curious to hear it. Joseph, I will come back to this comment. 100%. I'm going to do this. 100%. I'm excited that you asked me to do that. I've wanted to do a little quarterback ranking for quite some time. I haven't done that. So that'll be fun. But we got some more prospects to talk about right here. Next up, we got the 2 Texas guys. And the first Texas guy we'll talk about is Adonai Mitchell. Adonai Mitchell has some good size at 6'4", 196 pounds. He's a bit of a lankier build. Like, I don't know if I'm just saying that because of my size, but it's a bit of a lankier build. 21 years of age. I mean, for a wide receiver, it's not really a lanky build. It's a pretty solid size. 21 years of age. Last season at Texas, 845 yards with 11 touchdowns in 2023. And the most impressive stat from AD Mitchell that you will see is that 2.2% drop rate. This guy's hands are magnets, and the football is a big piece of metal. This guy catches everything. You put it around him, he's going to bring it in. And that is something that the Bills could utilize in a great way. We heard a lot about Gabe Davis and his drops last season. We saw Stephon Diggs drop a ball against the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC divisional round. That really hurt. Drops happen in the National Football League. But man, if this guy comes in the National Football League and has a drop rate like that, or even close to it, that's going to be a huge asset for an NFL team. He's a complete package wide receiver with great route running, good size. He's able to go deep. He's able to go short, in, out, whatever. Stretch the field vertically, horizontally. He's able to do it all. The one thing that's a concern is maybe his consistency, because obviously the stats aren't anything really to write home about with the Texas Longhorns last season. But the other concern would be the fact that like an interview. Do I have the interview clip? There's an interview where they asked him about do you run 100% on every route? And he said that he goes like 70% on most of his routes because it's about the timing. Maybe that's a good thing just because of how fast he is. But on the other hand, is there a potential effort issue? Because if there is, it's not going to fly in the National Football League. I don't care how good you are because obviously the college, it's a great level. D1 football, really solid. But once you get to that next level, these are grown men playing. It's a grown man's game, as Ray Lewis would say. It's a next level. And a lot of the players in college that you're playing against don't even make it there. Daniel Rojas says, trade the whole future and trade for Justin Jefferson, to be honest. You know what? If the Bills landed Justin Jefferson, I don't know what it would take. It would probably take at least two first-round picks. Do I do it? Sure. But you know what? You know what stinks? The thing that stings the most is the Bills had Justin Jefferson. That pick was traded for Stephon Diggs. Diggs was great for Buffalo over his 4 years, but just imagine what Justin Jefferson would have been able to do if he grew with Josh Allen. Wow. Mike says I'm okay with it and referring to trading down as long as we don't trade down too far, maybe 10 to 12 spots. So you're talking in the neighborhood of like a 38, 40 pick. That's reasonable. And if the Bills are trading down here, there's something that I want to make sure they get, and that's a third-round pick because they don't have a third-round pick this year. So maybe you have to package like an additional fifth or something to get a third-round pick as well. But I think getting a third-round pick should be a priority if they go that road of trading down because there is a massive gap after I think it was the 60th overall pick. We're going to do a mock draft in a bit, but I think it's the 60th overall pick, and then there's a big gap into pick one something. So I don't love that gap for the Bills because this team, they could use all the help they can get with filling out some other voids. I mean, obviously there's no massive glaring hole on the team, but you have 10 picks, utilize them in the right way, and you can really help this team succeed. Andrew agrees with Mike, and yeah, you know what? There is a legitimate case for trading down. There's also a case for trading up. There's a case for staying put. We're going to have to see how it all unfolds, really. But I'm okay with it as long as the Bills are getting some talent and they're not giving up everything inside of their future here. You got to be very careful and precise with what you do. Bills fan 2020, would you ever do reaction videos? Have you? Yeah, I do reaction videos a lot. My biggest pop on this channel was at the Bills Chiefs game, the divisional round game in Buffalo this season. That video got somewhere around 118,000 views. And if you're here from that video, thank you. I got a lot of support from Chiefs Kingdom, actually. They're pretty good. As much as Bills fans don't like the Chiefs, they've got a nice little fan base over there. That video was fun. I went to Miami, did a reaction video there. I go to most home games as well. So if you haven't checked those out, I encourage you to go check them out after this live stream. I've got a bunch of those reaction videos live from the stadium. I do some here watching the game above me. I do a little play-by-play commentary. But when I'm at the stadium, it is electrifying. It's next level stuff. It's intense. And that Bills-Chiefs game and that Bills-Dolphins game in Week 18 in Miami, those were two of the most memorable experiences I've ever had at a live sporting event. And if I have some friends that watch the show, they would tell you This guy goes to a lot of sporting events. I'm planning on going to every home game for the Bills next season, and hopefully a away game, which I'm thinking maybe Houston. We'll see how it all unfolds, though. I meant like reacting to YouTube videos. I don't know. I'm not sure. It depends on what kind of stuff it is. It's got to be Bills related, really. It's got to be Bills related. Okay, so we've done a lot here. I want to go back to a comment earlier that was requested. We got when you're done draft talk, can you please rank the top quarterbacks in the NFL? So we're going to do our mock draft, and then we're going to do this. This is how we're going to close out the show. And if anyone else wants to see anything else, we will. I will gladly discuss it because less than 48 hours away from the draft now. We've got a lot to talk about, but I still have to talk about Xavier Worthy from Texas before we move on to the mock draft. Xavier Worthy. This is a guy that I know, and if you've been following the Bills and the draft process really closely, you'd know that Xavier Worthy had a visit with the Bills recently. And he's a very interesting prospect at only 20 years old. But a downside is that he's only 6 foot, 165 pounds. That's a little man. Little man. Little wee man. I've talked about this before. I work out. I go to the gym. I lift 165 pounds quite easily. I push that thing around on the bench press like nothing. Now, imagine what a National Football League linebacker would do if they got a hold of him. Is it a concern? I think it's a legitimate concern. But look at his stats. 1,014 yards with 5 touchdowns in 2023. And ignore that 4.22 40-yard dash because that's a typo. It was a 4.21 40-yard dash, which tied John Ross for the record at the NFL Scouting Combine. And if you look at Ross, he didn't have a great NFL career. But deep threat wide receiver, electrifying playmaker, there's no doubt about it. But the size is a legitimate concern. I have to show you the 40-yard dash from Xavier Worthy because if you haven't seen it, it's a sight that you have to see. This is incredible stuff from Xavier Worthy at the Combine. Wow. Like, look at... That's crazy. That is insane. I mean, to run that fast, maybe his size won't be a problem because he'll just outrun everybody. I'm not sure. But he's definitely a very intriguing option at the wide receiver position. And when you look at the new NFL kickoff rules that are going to be implemented this year, kickoffs are going to be more relevant. Like kickoff returns are going to be something that we see more of. And Xavier Worthy, he's second all time in Texas Longhorns school history in average punt return yards. It's somewhere around the 13.9 yards per return mark. But he's an electrifying player, 100%. Does that transition well to the NFL? There's a lot of question marks about it because of his size. If the Bills drafted him, I can get behind it. If the Bills didn't draft him, I can get behind it. The more that we get closer to the draft, the more I'm liking this guy, though. Just because of how much playmaking ability there actually is with him. You think about Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's actually over 200 pounds. He's a shorter guy, but he's over 200 pounds. He's a little bulky guy. He's fast, and you see how much playmaking ability and playmaking prowess that he's had with Kansas City and with Miami. Imagine Josh Allen gets a deep threat wide receiver like that, but the problem is he can't really go up and get the ball because of that size. He gets pushed around a little bit on contested balls. So a lot to like about Worthy, a lot to question about him as well. Okay. I think he can run over the opponents, just blow right by them. Either way, he's all right. Yeah, Xavier Worthy, he's definitely interesting. Let's do a mock draft. This is the final mock draft that we will be doing here on the Bills Bunker. As I said, 48 hours away. What time is it now exactly? 7:56. So yeah, just about 48 hours away from the 2024 National Football League draft. An exciting time to be a football fan. No more mock drafts, and after this, it's just going to be talking about the schedule release, and there's going to be a lot to talk about next week, Table Smash Tuesday. We're going to be breaking down these draft picks. We're going to have a lot to talk about. It's going to be fun. The wait is finally going to be over. But let's do a mock draft here. And for this mock draft, I'm only going to control the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to share my screen with you. The final mock draft of 2024 until January, hopefully February of next year. Share screen. 2024 mock draft simulator. All right. Here we go. You'll see that. Let me check, verify. Yep, it's up. All right, we're good to go for this mock draft. And the way that this is going to work out, I'm controlling Buffalo only. We'll do all 7 rounds, and I'll consider some trades along the way as well. In the past, I've traded up for Brian Thomas Jr. At this point in time, just for the purpose of this one, I'm not going to trade up unless I see Brian Thomas Jr. slide down significantly. Okay, here we go. Enter solo draft. Caleb Williams off the board, no surprise. Drake May goes. Whoa. Jaden Daniels is still there. What's going on? Could you imagine? Hold on. I have to pause it already. Could you imagine if this is how the draft plays out? Jaden Daniels is still on the board. Caleb Williams gone number 1. Drake May number 2. Harrison Jr. to the Patriots. Dallas Turner, Malik Neighbors, Joe Alt, Fashuanu, Terry and Arnold, Roma Dunze. So like I said earlier, Caleb Williams and Dunze meet up in Chicago. I could definitely see that playing out that way. The Jets get an offensive tackle, a young one to groom behind Tyron Smith. But Jaden Daniels is still there at pick 11. So is J.J. McCarthy for the Vikings and for the Broncos. That's crazy. That is a crazy situation playing out because I don't really see it happening. But I guess anything's possible. That's breathtaking. That's unbelievable. And Vikings fans and Broncos fans everywhere would be so happy. But I wouldn't get your hopes up. Yeah, there you go. What? What is happening to Jaden Daniels here? Jaden Daniels still isn't off the board after pick 12. The Broncos passed on Jaden Daniels. What has this man done? Jaden Daniels is still there. What? So Jaden Daniels goes to Seattle at pick 16? Unbelievable stuff. That's not happening. See, these mock draft simulators, they're not the most accurate thing, but whatever. Nate Wiggins, Clemson. Brian Thomas Jr. to Dallas. Oh, okay. Brian Thomas Jr. is off the board to Cincinnati Bengals. So the Bengals get another wide receiver. Interesting. Let's see how it plays out. I'm not trading up now because obviously the guy that I would have traded up for isn't there. Byron Murphy II, defensive tackle out of Texas. Adonai Mitchell to the Philadelphia Eagles, adding to that wide receiver core. Wow. Okay, so Xavier Worthy off the board. We got a couple trade offers here. The Cardinals offering me pick 35 and pick 104. Pick 56. Dallas. Wow, that's a haul. 80. No. Okay, I'm just going to hide these for now. What do we have available at the wide receiver position right now? Keon Coleman, Ladd McConkey, Jalen Polk, and Xavier Legette. So with that being said, Xavier Worthy's gone. Adonai Mitchell went pretty early to Philly, which I think is really interesting. I didn't have them taking a wide receiver in this draft class, but I guess this mock draft simulator's gone wild today. Jaden Daniels fall all the way down into the teens, and Adonai Mitchell goes to the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, so I'm going to end up taking a trade offer. We'll look at other options. I'll just show you who's available. So Johnny Newton, defensive tackle out of Illinois. Chop Robinson, edge out of Penn State. There's some concern about him and some injuries. Michael Penix Jr. still available. Bo Nix. Keon Coleman, it's an interesting option, but I think I can get a wide receiver later at this point. So with that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to trade back. And pick 35 is very interesting because it's not that far down. But what were my other options? 56, I don't like that from Dallas at all. 75 and a bunch. I'm not trading for next year's picks because it's a mock draft and that's no fun. So I'm going to counter this. Let me check. So what do we got? 32. I need to get into the third round here. So if they give me pick 90, I'll go for it. They don't want to do it. Okay. So they don't want to do it. So I'll have to sweeten the pot a bit to get that 90th pick. And in order to do that, I'll add in pick 200. There you go. Okay, so we made a deal. Back-to-back picks for the Arizona Cardinals. Let's see what happens when we trade down. Jalen Polk's off the board, Bo Nix off the board, and we still have wide receiver options. We could trade down again. Do we want to do that? I don't think so. Pick 47 and pick 70. That's actually an interesting offer, but I think this is the point. We're at pick number 35. Did we go Keon Coleman? Did we go Ladd McConkey? Xavier Legette? Troy Franklin? What are our picks that we have? We have pick 35, pick 60, pick 90. So, how do we want to operate this? Keon Coleman's an interesting option. Like I said earlier, you love him or you hate him. 6'3", 213 pounds. He's not my favorite prospect, though. He's very hit or miss. Ladd McConkey, I'm a bit worried about him out of the slot. Do I reach on Xavier Legette at this point? Is it reaching a lot? It might be. I'm thinking the guy that I like most out of these three is Ladd McConkey, but the potential inability to be an effective outside wide receiver in the NFL makes me go with Xavier Legette. Get that size and a DK Metcalf comparable for me at pick number 35. Wide receiver out of South Carolina. Ladd McConkey goes to the Titans. Keon Coleman goes to the Washington Commanders. And now we're all the way down to pick 60. Let's see how this board plays out. I'm curious to know how everyone's feeling about this so far in the comments section. Let's get to some comments here. See what everyone's saying. Unbelievable mock draft. Yeah, no kidding. How is it that Jaden Daniels goes all the way down into the teens? Makes no sense. No sense at all. Okay. So now pick number 60. We're on the clock. Do. That sound is awesome. Michael Penix Jr. is still here. This is weird, man. This is real weird. Offense, defense. Rook Ororo. I love that guy out of Clemson. He's had an interesting story, actually. I couldn't relay you his whole story, but I know that he hasn't been playing football that long. I don't remember what country he's from, but he's not born in the USA. He's an interesting prospect. Mel Kiper loves him. Big boy at the defensive tackle position. And when you look at the current status of the Bills' defense on their defensive line, you have DaQuan Jones. You have Ed Oliver. You have some other pieces that they've acquired at the defensive tackle position. But there's a lot of question marks about what if DaQuan Jones goes down with injury again this season. He's at 32 years old. He's on a 2-year contract. I think at this point, Ruka Rororo at pick 60, falling all the way from projected pick number 47, that's a potential steal for the Bills. And Honestly, I'm going to have to go with my guy out of Clemson. I've got a Clemson helmet right here, over here. Can't show it to you, but I've got a Clemson helmet right over here. And I'm going with defensive tackle, Rook Orororo. It's so hard to say, but it's not that hard to say. Rook Orororo. Rook Orororo. That's my guy, defensive tackle. That'd be nice if he fell to the Bills there. I don't think it's happening, but I'll take it gladly. Now we've got a third round pick because we traded down earlier in the first round, and Joseph Clark says McCaffrey. Just wait. We might get McCaffrey, or we might get one of the bloodline players. We'll see who's available when we're up next. So we've addressed the defensive tackle position. We've addressed the wide receiver position. Devondre Sweat all the way down at pick 86. He's like 360 pounds out of Texas. Pick 90 for 108. No, we're good. We've got a lot of picks to go here. A lot. So pick number 90. What I'm looking for at this point is someone who can be a potential impact player. Jeremiah Trotter. Do I go with another Clemson guy? No, because our linebacking core is stacked. You have Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard both coming back from injury this season. And then you have like Dorian William, Bale Inspector. The linebacking core is not going to be addressed in this draft class, I don't think. Maybe a late round pick like on day 3, but not anything early. I'd be really surprised if they did. Okay, so defensive tackle, we picked a wide receiver. Honestly, at this point, what I'm liking for the Bills is a safety or a corner. We don't know if Micah Hyde's coming back. We know that Taylor Rapp's there, DeMar Hamlin's there, and Mike Edwards is there. Iron sharpens iron. You have these guys competing for a spot. It's going to be beneficial to your team. We have pick 90 right now. We're up again at pick 128 and 133 and 144. So we'll have a plethora of picks to get another wide receiver right there in the 4th round. We got a 4th round pick from the Green Bay Packers trade. There's a compensatory 4th round pick from Tremaine Edmonds, and then the Bills' original 4th round pick. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a safety, and the safety that I wanted, Javon Bullard, is off the board, the safety out of Georgia. So I'm going to go with my second favorite safety in this draft class, and that's Kalen Bullock out of USC. I think right now, although the draft has been a little weird, I think it's shaping up to be a pretty good one for the Bills so far. You got Xavier Legette, a wide receiver. Definitely need another wideout option, though. 100%, because there's some uncertainty about the prospect that is Xavier Legette. Okay. So we're getting into the 4th round here. We've got a bunch of picks here coming up. Audric Estime is off the board. I know the Bills just had him on a visit recently. So he's off the board. He's actually a New York State born player. Gone to Notre Dame. He had a Notre Dame rushing touchdown record last season. Was it 16 or 18 touchdowns on the ground? Impressive stuff from him. Okay, we're up. And Denver, no. You suck. We don't want your picks. All right. Here we go. So we took a defensive tackle, we took a safety, and we took a wide receiver. At this point in time, if you're thinking about needs on the team, I want an interior offensive lineman in Mason McCormick, offensive guard, South Dakota State. We know about the offensive line right now. No Mitch Morse, no Ryan Bates. Bates was traded to Chicago. Mitch Morse was released, and he signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars, where he joined Gabe Davis. So getting an offensive guard in Mason McCormick gets some more depth at the position. They did sign Will Clapp, who can play center or guard, and they did sign Lyle Collins, who's had some experience as a guard in his rookie season, but that was forever ago, close to a decade ago. So, yeah. Cade Stover is still available here, which I think is crazy as well. This draft has been a little weird, but they're just throwing curveballs at us. Now, I do think the Bills could also use a running back because if you look at the running back depth chart, you have James Cook and Ty Johnson. Damian Harris retired. Leonard Fournette was cut in the playoffs last season. And Latavius Murray, I don't anticipate he's coming back. He's old, veteran. So, running back that I like, there's a few of them here. Jalen Wright, he's got some all right size there. Honestly, Jalen Wright. We're going to go with Jalen Wright here. And, well, do we take a running back here? We've got a lot of picks coming up here in a row. I think we can get a running back later. So I'm not going to take a running back. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go edge rusher at a premium position. Javon Solomon out of Troy. Edge rusher is obviously a more valuable position than running back. There's so many running backs that are going to be really available in the later rounds. So why take him now when you can get one later? Leave that. I think I'm killing this mock draft right now. I really do. But we need more wide receivers. And the wide receiver that I want, there's your guy, Luke McCaffrey. When did Rice go? Because I didn't even see him come off the board. He's gone. So we're going to go out and we're going to get Luke McCaffrey. A nostalgic pick for Brandon Beane. Going back to the well, obviously he was part of the crew in Carolina that picked up Christian McCaffrey. And now he's bringing in the bloodlines to Buffalo. Wide receiver out of Rice, Luke McCaffrey, 144th overall. I think that's definitely a possibility. It's definitely a possibility that the Bills take McCaffrey. Just a nostalgia thing, right? All right. We got to get to pick 160. Let's see what's going on in the comment section here. Mike likes McCormick. Yeah, McCormick, offensive guard. You could use some of that offensive line help in the interior there. Nice draft so far. Thank you. All right. Here we go. So, trade offer from the Ravens. Honestly, we have so many picks still that it's like I don't even want to trade down anymore at this point. We got 4 more picks here, and we've taken a lot of players to help at other positions. Ruka Rororo is my favorite pick of this draft right now. And then we really helped out inside the trenches with this draft class. We got a wide receiver. I think it might be a good idea to get another wide receiver at some point here, but maybe not yet. I saw in the comment section, Mike mentioned Isaac. Yeah, that's a big body out of Louisville. 6 foot, 221 pounds. I like that a lot, actually. And we have a pick, and we're back on the board in 3 picks. Look at this. Just look at the board right now. 1, 2. There's a lot of running backs available here right now. And I think this is a sweet spot in the draft to take a running back right around, the late 5th round. I think this is the time to do it. Let's go get Isaac Guerrero from Louisville. I hope that makes you happy, Mike. We're back on the board again. Here we go. At this point, we're really just looking for value. And honestly, something that we haven't picked is a cornerback. We haven't picked a cornerback. There's Elijah Jones out of Boston College. That's where Matt Milano came from. He's 185 pounds. He's got kind of a lanky frame. He's long body, 6'1". Let's go ahead and get Elijah Jones. I don't know much about him, but we're going to go get Elijah Jones, cornerback. Add some cornerback depth there. And if we know anything about Brandon Beane and the way that they draft, they're able to get a lot of good value on the defensive side of the football late in draft classes. I mentioned this in a recent video. Christian Benford was a 6th or 7th round pick in 2021, I believe. Dean Jackson was a 7th round pick in 2020. Matt Milano wasn't picked by Brandon Beane, but in 2017, I think he was a 5th round pick out of Boston College. And look at what Sean McDermott has done to utilize him in the system. So these guys are really interesting. Oh, this is an interesting prospect to watch out for. Quantez Stiggers from the Toronto Argonauts. Yeah, he led the CFL in interceptions last season. He's an interesting prospect for sure. I think that he's got an interesting story. It's not the typical college route that you hear from everyone else in the draft class. It's this guy played in the CFL, and he's going to get drafted to the NFL. Maybe there's some potential there. Ryan Flournoy, the Bills had him on a visit. He went to the Southeast Missouri State. He just got drafted to the Baltimore Ravens there, wide receiver. I'm looking at Xavier Thomas, hoping he falls to us, but we got a lot of picks to go. I don't think he's going to be there. I'm going to pause the draft, and I'm going to trade up here. I'm going to trade up for pick 199 because I want Xavier Thomas, an edge rusher. Who has it? Saints? New Orleans Saints. I'm doing some in-depth drafting here. I want their 199. I'll give them 204. And honestly, I'll give them 248 as well, just because I want to get Xavier Thomas, an edge rusher from Clemson. They'll take it. Yep. All right. So we're going to get our guy from Clemson right here. I just traded for the pick. I'm not trading it, silly. What happened? Oh, no. It took me to Ticketmaster. Clicked on an ad. Unbelievable. And there go. Oh, okay. We're back. Okay. We're good. Xavier Thomas, you are a Buffalo Bill. And that concludes my draft class. Let's check it out. And next up, Marche. I see you, Marche. I see you. Mike says at this point in the draft, you're drafting for special teams and backup depth at weak positions. Yeah, basically, it's like if you can get a nice value pick, then you can get if you can get someone at a premium value position, you hear that a lot, especially on day 3 in the draft. If you can get that, it's a nice addition for the team. And a lot of these guys might not ever sniff becoming a starter in the NFL. They might not even make the 53-man roster on opening day. Hey, they have a chance to make some sort of contributions on special teams or backup depth. And next man up mentality is something the Bills preach. So, honestly, this thing is taking forever to finish off here. We got a few more picks. All right, I'll just show you my picks. So my picks in my final mock draft, basically I traded down because the way that the first round played out was so weird. You had Jaden Daniels fall all the way down into the teens. And the Denver Broncos and the Minnesota Vikings both passed on him. Weird. Unlikely scenario that I just don't see happening unless something came out about Jaden Daniels in the last 2 minutes, 20 minutes. I don't think so. Jaden Daniels is going to be a top 5 pick. That's craziness. What this NFL mock draft simulator just spat out at me, but whatever. I'm adapting on the fly, and there's so many variables to this NFL drafting stuff. That's what you have to do as an NFL GM. I'm not one, but I'm putting myself in those shoes right now. I got Xavier Legette, wide receiver out of South Carolina. A lot of people love this guy. I'm not so high on Xavier Legette, but I see why there's a lot to like about him and his size. Like, this could be a DK Metcalf-esque type player. I got a Rook Aroro out of Clemson. This is a defensive tackle that actually hasn't played the game for too long. Coming from Clemson. Clemson is a school that the Bills have drafted a lot at over the years. Not since Brandon Beane has been here, but a lot of Clemson players have ended up playing for the Buffalo Bills. I can think of Sammy Watkins, CJ Spiller. There's another one that just left my mind. Oh, Shaq Lawson. There's a lot more where that came from. But a lot of Clemson guys ended up playing for the Bills over the years. Kalen Bullock, safety at USC. You address the safety position because obviously Mike Edwards, DeMar Hamlin, Taylor Rapp, Micah Hyde, we don't know what's going to happen with him. It's not going to cut it. You need some more depth there. Mason McCormick, some depth on the interior offensive line. He's not going to be a plug-and-play piece right away, but he's someone that if someone were to go down with injury, which is very likely on the offensive line, it didn't happen last season because the Bills were very lucky. You have another depth piece and someone that could end up being a starter in the future. Javon Solomon out of Troy, edge rusher. You got wide receiver Luke McCaffrey, the good old nostalgic pick, and the bloodlines going back to that well. I mean, Brandon Beane may very well do this. I have been preaching this for a long time, for months. I think he's picking Luke McCaffrey if he's on the board at the right time, just because he picked his brother and it worked out really well. You got a running back out of Louisville. He's a big body guy. You have James Cook and you have Ty Johnson. You need some more depth there. I think the Bills are going to take a running back late in this draft. Elijah Jones out of Boston College. He's 6'1", 190 pounds, I believe it said. So get a corner, some more depth at the position. And wait a minute, what? Oh, no. I didn't mean to take Patrick McMorris there. I actually traded up for that pick to get defensive tackle or a defensive edge rusher. I just clicked the wrong guy, but whatever. So that's that. And now Joseph Clark earlier in the show requested that I do something. So I'm going to do that. Mike says he feels good about Leggett and McCaffrey. And you know what? Leggett and McCaffrey, you got some wide receivers there. I'm not sure how much McCaffrey would contribute in his rookie season, but it'd be interesting. Do you think we're going to trade up for a good wide receiver? I think it's too hard to say. Like, it depends on how the board plays out, really. It really does, because like if Brian Thomas Jr. goes off the board early, like say pick 14, 15, no, I don't think they will. If Brian Thomas Jr. falls to and it's not really falling, but if he's available around pick 18, 19, 20, that's more likely where the Bills pull the trigger because they don't have to give up too many assets to trade up, 8 picks compared to 10 picks. Because those top 15 picks, they're more valuable than the top 20 picks where the actual production of the player, it becomes more uncertain. Marche says, would you want to be a GM for the Buffalo Bills? No brainer. This is my tryout to be a Bills GM. I've posted tryouts to be a kicker. I've posted tryouts to be a wide receiver. I've posted tryouts to be their practice squad quarterback, and unfortunately, I've heard nothing back. So, you know what? I'm willing to be Brandon Beane's assistant. But I think he's deserving of sticking there. Giovanni, who do you think the Bills are going to get for a draft? Who do I think they're going to draft? What, in like the first round? I think it's got to be a wide receiver, but we've been discussing this. Like, they could trade down. They could trade down. They could trade up. I think there's going to be some sort of trade involved here. And if they do stay put, I see one of the wide receivers from Texas or Ladd McConkey being the most likely outcome. If the Bills stay at pick 28, I think Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell, or Ladd McConkey. If they're at pick number 28 and they pick a wide receiver. Because I think Xavier Leggett's more of a second-round guy. But a team very well may give him a first-round grade, which we hear Brandon Beane talks about a lot. hey, maybe he goes ahead and does that. Some mock drafts are saying they're drafting a safety. What, in the first round? I think the Bills will draft a safety somewhere, like maybe a Kalen Bullock out of USC or Javon Bullard out of Georgia. But those are the guys that I want. I want Bullard from Georgia the most out of the safeties in this draft class, and that's probably a second, third round pick. Probably a second round pick. In the first, I know that they had a visit with Cooper DeJean last week, and Cooper DeJean, he's more of a corner, but the thing about DeJean is he's very versatile. He's able to play in the slot, he's able to play out wide as a corner, and he's able to play as a safety too. So the Bills look at Cooper DeJean here as information. 21 years old. He's an elite playmaker from the defensive back position. Solid tackling. One of the best tacklers in this draft class. And his versatility is an asset that I truly believe the Bills would value here, especially when you consider the departures at the safety position. But it's going to be interesting. I think the Bills draft a wide receiver, and I showed this earlier too. FanDuel's projecting this. This is FanDuel's betting odds, and the betting odds, the Vegas insiders know the most. Wide receiver is minus 240 to get drafted. They're basically daring you to bet defensive line, edge, and cornerback because they want to take your money. Plus 500 and plus 650 odds. They're saying do it. Do it. Try it. If you've ever seen Star Wars where Palpatine says, do it. It's like that. That's what FanDuel is doing to you there. I think the Bills' first pick is going to be a wide receiver. Unless there's some sort of trade involved where they trade down and then their guy's gone. It's most likely going to be a wide receiver. But Joseph Clark, earlier on the show, asked me to do something. I'm going to do it. Giovanni says OBJ should go to the Bills. I'm not against it, but if the price has got to be right. And honestly, I'm not so sure that the Bills need that. Like, they just got rid of Diggs, and OBJ himself, he's got a bit of those diva vibes. I know he's matured a little bit. He's aged, but like I said, he's aged, and he's had some injury history. He didn't have a great year with Baltimore last year, so I'm not so sure that I want that. I'm really not. Ayuk, it wouldn't be my first choice. It wouldn't be my first choice because you can get younger and cheaper instead of trading for a veteran wide receiver and bring in Ayuk. Ayuk, he doesn't cost that much, but it doesn't do it for me, really. I hope your picks coming true for real. I hope so too. Thank you. I like Bill's videos because I have a video that's very interesting. I think you'd like. I'll check it out. I'm gonna do that quarterback ranking thing that Joseph Clark asked earlier. He asked me to rank the quarterbacks. So if anyone has seen Tier Maker before, I'm gonna make a Tier Maker list right now. I just gotta search it up and share my screen with you guys. So NFL quarterback rankings for this season. Let's do it. Share screen. So this is the last thing I'm going to do. Been on for about an hour and a half now. Create a quarterback tier rankings list. All right, let's do this. Okay. All right, I'm not going to change the names or anything, but there's our guy right there. He's going in that upper echelon right there. Josh freaking Allen. And he's going in there with this guy. It's those two, and then it's everybody else. I'll give you that right now. After that, Joe Burrow in the A list, in the A tier. Okay. Wow, there's a lot of these guys, eh? This is interesting. CJ Stroud if I was just going off last season, would be an A, but he has to prove it again. He's going to be in B for now, but I think he's going to move up probably. Jared Goff. Honestly, he is A for me. Jared Goff is one of those underrated quarterbacks. Doesn't get enough love. Justin Herbert, 100% in A. And if you disagree, you don't know what you're talking about because he is exceptional. Zach Wilson's D. Derek Carr. Derek Carr wasn't very much better than him, but I'll give him some love, I guess. I'll give him a C. Baker Mayfield. Yeah, I need more tiers than this because this is just weird. Like Baker Mayfield was way better than Derek Carr. I need another tier somewhere in between here, but I'm not gonna add it for now. I don't even know who that guy is, to be honest. I really don't. But Kyler Murray, he's in this tier, I guess. Dak Prescott. So yeah, I need more tiers because Dak Prescott really ain't on that level, but I'll put him with CJ Stroud. Matt Ryan's not even in the league anymore. Mac Jones with Zach Wilson in the delusionally bad territory. Aaron Rodgers is so hard to grade, but I'll put him up here in B for now. Usually he'd be an A for sure. Lamar Jackson, if CJ Stroud's in B, Lamar Jackson's definitely in B. And I don't care that he was MVP last season. I really don't. Jalen Hurts, B. A lot of people are going to be in this B territory. Justin Fields, C. Geno Smith, C. Daniel Jones, he's C minus. Jordan Love, he's in that same area as CJ Stroud, B. Kenny Pickett, D. Sam Howell. I mean, if Daniel Jones is there, Howell can be too. Anthony Richardson. How do I rank Anthony Richardson? I don't know. He has to be a C because I haven't seen anything from him. Russell Wilson. I mean, he wasn't that bad last season, but C. Matthew Stafford, B. Will Levis, C, I guess. Trevor Lawrence, B. Garoppolo, last time we saw him, was not very good at all. Will Levis is in C. I'm going to give Jimmy G a D. He's not very good. Darnold, D. Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins. I mean, I guess, yeah, he's right around here. Brock Purdy, he's got to be in B. He did enough to get some respect. Deshaun Watson, C. Tua. Okay, so we got... He's definitely not in the same tier as like the CJ Strouds and stuff, so... Yeah, that seems right. Andy Dalton, Trey Lance, Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill's doo-doo now. Bryce Young. I mean, he was D last year, that's for sure. There's some of these guys I don't know who they are. Carson Wentz, D. Matt Ryan's retired. Davis Mills is on this list. Is that Jameis Winston? I really don't know. I'm going to end it there, though. That's all I've got. These are the guys that I can... So Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes in a level of their own, obviously. Joe Burrow, Jared Goff, Justin Herbert. A lot of people are going to hate that I don't have Lamar there. CJ Stroud. I think CJ Stroud's going to be there by the end of the season, but he has to prove it one more time for me. Rookie campaign was great, but let's see how he adjusts next season. Aaron Rodgers, he can be up there again if he has a great season. I'm not so sure that's going to happen at his age and given what just happened with his injury, but we'll see. Jalen Hurts, tush push mania. I like the guy, but B. I mean, I think they lost 8 games in a row last season. Matthew Stafford, maybe he's not getting enough respect. This list is really debatable, but the thing that is evident is the top 2 guys, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. they're in a tier of their own. That's my quarterback tier ranking list right now. I'm curious to know how you feel about it. I definitely need some more categories somewhere there, but let me know what you think. I'm gonna. Joseph Clark says Hurts could be an A if plays good, but bad last season. Yeah, like I said, Jalen Hurts. There's a lot, dude. Jalen Hurts is a really good quarterback. I have him in B. That's not bad. That's not bad. CJ Stroud's in B. I mean, that's not bad at all. Jalen Hurts. Who do you think is better, Baker Mayfield or Jalen Hurts? You think Mayfield? No, I think Jalen Hurts is better. I think Jalen Hurts is the better quarterback myself. But everyone's entitled to their opinion. I'm not going to try to talk you out of picking Baker Mayfield over Jalen Hurts. One thing I'll say about Baker Mayfield that I don't see in Jalen Hurts is that dog mentality. Like, Baker Mayfield has a dog mentality. I don't see that from Jalen Hurts. Marche says, if you want to check it out tomorrow, I'm posting a top 10 picks, and Bill's pick are full. I don't know yet. I'll be sure to check it out. I will. A lot would say Jackson is top, and you know what? A lot would say that, but I'm not one of them. I'm not one of them. Lamar Jackson's not on the level of Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. You can't tell me that he is. You just can't. Look at what he's done in the playoffs. Has he had one of those games in the playoffs where it just, wow, it amazes you? No. He's had 2 MVP seasons, and he shouldn't have been MVP last year. I think it should have been Josh Allen. Christian McCaffrey can make a case. Brock Purdy can make a case. I think all 3 of those guys were better MVP candidates than Lamar Jackson last season. But hey, who am I to say that, right? There's a lot of people that agree with me. But can you rank wide receivers next? How about I do that next Tuesday night? I'll do that next Tuesday night after we do our draft recap. Because next Tuesday is going to be a busy show. I can do that at the end of next show. Been on for over an hour and a half now. It's been a long show. It's been lengthy. There's been a lot to talk about. And it's been really fun. Hurts or Josh? Come on, man. Hurts or Josh Allen? It's Josh Allen. It's Josh Allen for sure. I mean, Jalen Hurts, sure, he made a Super Bowl appearance, and Jalen Hurts has done a lot of really good things. But it's Josh Allen for sure. The guy on the Madden cover, the guy on the cereal box right here. I'm not going just based off of his face or whatever. And I'm not going just based off of his personality and his golf game. No, I'm going based off of what I see on the football field. Josh Allen does things that Jalen Hurts simply can't do. Like the throws that you see Josh Allen make, I don't think it's really comparable. And if you look at the stats tell you all you need to know. And don't just say, oh, the turnovers. The Hurts slander is crazy. I've said good things about Jalen Hurts. I just said this guy went to a Super Bowl. He led his team there. He's done a lot of good things. But what I saw from him at the end of last season scared me away a little bit. I think that's being fair. I put Josh Allen over Jalen Hurts. And I do watch a lot of Philadelphia Eagles games. And the one that you said I didn't watch a lot of Philadelphia Eagles games. I watched almost every one of them last season, and they really disappointed me at the end of the season because I put a lot of wagers on them. A lot of money line at the end of the season last year. And it really disappointed me. I don't know. Some of the play callings were questionable. Like the ground game that you had there, I didn't understand why they stopped running the ball at times. There's a lot to like about Philadelphia. I just didn't understand why they shied away from the ground game so much. At least it felt like that. Not looking at stats, it just felt like that when I was watching it, that they kind of shied away from the ground game, and they were doing a lot of passing. Sure, you got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, but Josh Allen over Jalen Hurts. That's it. Why am I going off last season? Because it's the most recent thing I've seen. Like, I haven't seen, there's nothing to go off of next season yet. And Jalen Hurts, I will say, Jalen Hurts can end up being back in that top 5 conversation for me easily within the first 5-6 weeks of next season. But right now, I'm going off the most recent thing that I saw. Is that recency bias? Maybe it is. Maybe it is. But if you would have had this conversation with me at the tail end of last season, or at the beginning of last season, before the season started, after the Super Bowl appearance that you guys had, I probably would have had him ranked higher. These things are interchangeable. They change based off of what's the most recent thing you see. I like Jalen Hurts. I like Josh Allen more. I like a lot of players more. I like Jalen Hurts over Baker Mayfield. There's a question about that, and I don't think it's really comparable. I just said the one attribute that I like more about Baker Mayfield is his mentality. I see more of a dog in a Baker Mayfield than I do in a Jalen Hurts, but Jalen Hurts, overall, solid quarterback, and he's someone that I'd be very happy if he obviously I have Josh Allen, but if I didn't have Josh Allen, I'd be happy with a guy like Jalen Hurts because he seems so calm, cool, and collected on the sideline. He's very even keel. He's very even. You know what? No problem with Jalen Hurts for me. But there's guys that are better. And I don't think that's up for debate. That's where I'm going to close out this show, though. 1 hour and 42 minutes. And if you haven't yet, I really encourage you to click subscribe. Share this channel with a friend. Tell a friend to tell a friend. We got a lot of stuff coming up here. The draft, less than 48 hours away now. The Bills, I can't wait to see what they do with their draft picks. I'm going to be having a bunch of discussions about every draft pick that they have. I'll have my videos. And then next Tuesday, we're going to have a full draft recap. There's lots of content coming all throughout the summer and into the season. So stay tuned for all of it. I appreciate all of you that stayed here throughout this long stream. I didn't anticipate almost 2-hour show, but I appreciate the hell out of all of you that stayed here. Thank you for watching. I'm Jake Varco. Click subscribe if you haven't yet. Go Bills. See y'all next week. Let's have a good draft. Let's crush it.
Go Bills. Look at this. Look at this crowd. Look at this.
Yes, it makes us wanna shout. Shout!
1, 2, 3, 4 years in a row. AFC East champion. It's our division. Let's go.
This guy's shirtless. He's dropping in.
Let's go.
That's a nice show for you. Look at it. Beautiful. Honestly, one of the best things I've seen all night. Those fireworks right there.